Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name is Emma Lefebvre, and today I am breaking down my most simple loose florals for you, stroke by stroke. So let's jump right in and start. Okay, so today we are working on loose florals, and I'm going to be breaking down 3 different types of flowers stroke for stroke to teach you how to make it as simple and as easy as possible without getting flustered about being not loose enough or too loose. I'm going to make it as easy as possible so you can master those loose florals. The first flower we're going to work on is the rose, then the anemone, and then the peony. Those are my 3 kind of go-to loose florals, and I think we should just jump in. So if you would like to get a scrap piece of paper, you don't have to work on your best paper. We're just practicing today. I'm using my Etchr Lab cold press watercolor sketchbook. I have my Princeton snap brush in a size 12 and my Winsor Newton professional watercolors in my palette, but use whatever you've got and let's dive in. So I tend to gravitate more towards loose florals rather than something a bit more detailed because 1, I don't have the attention span for really detailed paintings. I just don't. And 2, I just really like the way they look. So one little tip I want to give you while creating loose florals is loosen up that arm, okay? I don't want you to get super close to the edge where the bristles are like you would with a pen or drawing. You don't want to have a really stiff hand, okay? Loosen up a bit and kind of just give yourself the freedom to mess up and the freedom to just kind of let go, and you might be really impressed with the strokes that you get. So the rose is kind of one of the basic things that I've done before and I continue to do, one of my more popular flowers. And instead of, like I said, getting really close and on an angle, I want you to get your arm all nice loosey-goosey. That sounds weird. And you're just gonna really kind of do these really light circular strokes, some touching the page, some not, okay? And you can just practice that over and over again, okay? You can do it again, okay? Have your paintbrush vertical. You can anchor your elbow down. I know you can't see my elbow, but really just kind of let it flow and just see where it takes you. Once you've done the center of that, then we'll get into the bigger strokes. So let's get our center. Just really loose. You're kind of going this way and then this way. You're just doing squiggly little lines like this. And what I want you to keep in mind with your squiggly lines, I don't want you to have high arches. So I don't want you to be like this and like this. I want them to be fairly close together. And you are going to have some white space, but each stroke is going to be touching another stroke. So you're not going to have like stroke, 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 stroke where they're not touching. You know what I mean? That's going to look too separated and weird. You want to be loose and just kind of place it wherever you can. I know this looks kind of funny right now, but have some of them touching, okay? Just be kind of like sketchy with it, but don't think too much about it. I think that's the hardest part. Okay, and then you're going to want to get into your bigger strokes. So grab more paint, and we're just going to go around touching some of those little lines. I just need a bit more water, okay? Touching there, touching there. So I did about 3 kind of half moon strokes or C strokes. And now I'm just going to start placing some bigger strokes like this, okay? And they're kind of like just like these crescent moon squiggles, but they're touching. You're not getting like this big separation like I said. See how here there's like a lot of white space and it just doesn't look. You want it to touch some of those lines, but also giving just little bits of white space. Okay, so let's try another one from the beginning. I know this looks really weird right now and it's not the best, but I'm trying to explain in this little space that I have. Okay, so let's get our arm all loosey-goosey. Sounds weird. And just do our little squiggles that way, this way, that way, this way, touching each other. Okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to look different each time. And then your brush is going to be on an angle, and you're just going to just loosely touch part of those squiggles. Touch part of those squiggles. See how that kind of like even goes off? It looks a little weird. That's okay. And then 1, 2, 3. Okay, your brush is on an angle, so you get that thicker stroke, and you're not doing those big you know, kind of crescent moons where they're not touching. You have them touching the center. And then you're going to make them a little fatter and just, again, on the side, really loose, like so. I know it looks weird, but it will give you this nice kind of loose rose. Now I did 4 there, but you can go a little bit more with it. Okay, there is little bits of white space, but a lot of it's touching. What you don't want, and I'll just show you with this one going over this, is where it's all touching, where it just looks like a blob. Okay, it just looks like a circular blob. You don't want that. You do want these little bits of white space, okay? So it's kind of trying to find that balance in between the two, okay? And it's just something to practice. Again, that's why we're working on scrap paper or in a sketchbook. And then to really kind of show some depth in your work, I'm going to have to show you down here. I'm going to have to do it again because you don't want to let it dry completely. Okay, so let's do one more here. And I always start off with a lot darker pigment in the center. So you're going loose, loose, loose. Stroke, stroke, stroke. Okay, very loosely. And then go around with bigger strokes. Okay, getting those little bits of white in there. And then to make it, give it that little bit more of depth, put a lot more paint on your paper, on your paintbrush, and you're going to touch the inside of where those squiggles are. And so it kind of gives that depth that the rose, you can even do a little bit more squiggles, just so it looks like it's a bit more 3D rather than flat, especially when it dries. If you add too much dark color, it may bleed out to the whole flower and then you're not going to get that much depth. So definitely play around with that and test it out. But that's kind of the vibe you want to go for, okay? So that's our really, really loose rose. All right, now for the anemone, this is like one of my favorite ones to do and kind of my go-to flower, and very simple, okay? So I'm just gonna grab pink because I feel like I'm on maybe some yellow. We'll get some peach. This is my go-to. And you're gonna do a rough flower petal. Usually I start with the point inside to the center of the flower, and then I'll just drag it out, drag it out, drag it out. Don't even worry about the edge. Okay, see how the edge is kind of rugged and misshapen? It doesn't have to be perfect, but you get those points towards the center. Okay? Let's do another one. This is all you're doing. Again, point to the center where the stamen is going to be. Don't worry about the edge. The more rough it looks, the more loose it looks, and it kind of gives it a bit of character. I'm going to be painting right over this word anemone. Okay, turn your brush, or if you have to, turn your paper. Don't worry about that too much. If you don't like the little points there, you can just kind of unevenly make it like that. And then you can go all the way around and make it look like the perspective is top down. Or on that 4th petal, you can do a little kind of half moon crescent shape like you were doing for your rose. Make it really loose. And there you go. It's kind of like tilted to the side. All right. Super, super simple. So the stroke I want you to practice, make sure that point is to wherever the center of your stamen is going to be. And you're dragging out, you're doing kind of light pressure, heavy pressure. And then just kind of lifting your brush up. You're going light, heavy, and you're just lifting it up and just kind of seeing how the end turns out. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Let's do another one. Pick where your stamen's going to be. Always point your brush to where the stamen is. This is my go-to loose flower. Like that. And then to give it some depth with the anemone, what I'll do is I'll grab some more pigment and I'll like go towards the center and do some like that. Ta-da! Super easy. That's probably one of the easiest flowers you can do. Okay, and then lastly, we have our peony. And it's very similar kind of stroke to this stroke. Okay? You're just going to be doing them in a different kind of pattern. So let's just do some yellow. Okay, so we're going to make this kind of stroke again. except that it's not going to be pointing to where the stamen of the flower is going to be, but the base of the flower. So point it down to where the base of the flower is going to be and just kind of lift it up like that. You're just creating a rough, rounded petal. So that's one petal. And then you're going to create another one right beside it, not directly beside it where they're parallel, but have it curve in a little. So your brush was like this, now have it like this, where the base of the petal is kind of, they're curving in to kind of meet where the stem would be. Like that. All right. Then all you're going to do is you're going to do C strokes going around, very, very loose. This is like a side kind of open version of a peony. Okay, so we have these like little, you go light pressure, heavy pressure, light, and you're just kind of lifting your brush up. Okay, then you can just do some little squiggles in the center like that. If you would like to do more little dabs like that, you can. The squiggles work. Okay, and then it looks a little oddly shaped, so we might want to have some petals falling down. So again, you're just doing the same stroke, maybe a little smaller. And then you can even do some more rounded, however fluffy you want this thing to be. Maybe another one over here. And then some more of those strokes around, depending on how big you want it, like that. Okay? And then what I like to do for shadows, I'm just going to grab some of this pink. Where the base, where the stem of that flower would be, I'd like to darken it just a bit, bring some lines down. So where all those petals would be meeting to where the stem is, and then sometimes right in the center, or some of the petals around, just to give it a little bit of dimension. All right, super easy, super loose. Okay, let's try another one. Let's do it with a bit of a darker color. Let's make it purple, just so it pops out a bit. So again, light pressure, heavy pressure, lift up. Looks a little funny. Do it again. Lift up. You have this weird kind of jagged edge, but it's loose, right? If you want to clean it up a bit, you can. But there's even like a little white space here, and that's totally fine. Again, you're going to make another one, but tilting it towards that way. So pretend there's a stem right here. Okay. You can make it a little bit smaller, a little bit bigger, depends on how you want to do it. Okay. And then we're going to do our little kind of C strokes around. You don't want them to be too uniform. You don't want it to be like, it's going to look weird. Just be really loose with it. You don't want them to be the same, because then it doesn't look loose. Okay, and then you can do your little squigglies in the middle. Again, anytime I do like a squiggly loose line like this or this center, I put my paintbrush vertical, very loose wrist and very loose hand. Just kind of go back and forth. Okay, and it might take practice to get the look exactly that you want, but practice it. Just practice it. And then I'm going to do a couple more like this to make it nice and fluffy. Like so. And then usually I would put my leaf down here. Let me just grab some green. Okay, I would have it coming from the bottom and like bleeding into some of those and coming around. Okay, like that. But those are my tips for 3 extremely loose florals. I know this looks a little all over the place and messy, but I do hope that that was helpful and informative, and it just kind of simplified it all for you. It really is a lot more simple than we think. We just really have to let ourselves go. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it, and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram for even more. Have a great day, guys. Bye!